The Intel chronicles, every mission hides a secret. Every secret has a story.
The rain hammered against the window of Sheg's apartment as he stared at the empty glass in his hand. 3 weeks since they'd stopped Operation Crimson Dawn. 3 weeks since they'd saved 40,000 lives. 3 weeks since he'd been able to sleep through the night without seeing that countdown timer in his dreams. 8 seconds. 8 seconds between survival and catastrophe. His phone buzzed on the table. Nicole's name flashed across the screen. He let it ring twice before answering. "You're not sleeping either," she said. It wasn't a question. No. He walked to the window, watching the city lights blur through the rain. "You. Nightmares. Always the same one. I reach for the switch, but my hand moves in slow motion. The timer hits 0 before I can." She stopped. "Walsh wants us back. Tomorrow morning. He says it's urgent." Shegz closed his eyes. Part of him had known this call would come. Peace never lasted long in their line of work. "What's the situation?" He wouldn't say over the phone. "Just that we need to come in immediately." Nicole paused. "Shegz," he sounded scared. I've never heard Walsh scared before. The next morning, FBI headquarters felt different. The usual buzz of activity was replaced by a tense silence. Agents moved quickly through hallways, their expressions tight with worry. Shegz and Nicole exchanged a look as they entered the building. Something was very wrong. Walsh's office door was closed when they arrived, but they could see him through the glass, pacing, phone pressed to his ear, his free hand running through his graying hair repeatedly. When he saw them, he ended the call abruptly and waved them in. "Close the door," Walsh said. His face had aged 10 years in 3 weeks. Dark circles hung under his eyes. His tie was loose, his shirt wrinkled. "Sit down." They sat. Walsh opened a file on his desk, then seemed to think better of it and closed it again. He looked at them both for a long moment. "Marcus is dead." The words hit like a physical blow. Nicole's hand gripped the armrest of her chair. Shegz felt the room tilt slightly. "How?" Shegz managed. "Apparent suicide. Gunshot wound to the head. His apartment 3 nights ago." Walsh slid a photo across the desk. Shegz forced himself to look. Marcus, their demolitions expert who'd saved their lives in that tunnel, slumped in a chair, weapon on the floor beside him. "Marcus wouldn't," Nicole started. "I know." Walsh cut her off. "I know he wouldn't. But the crime scene was clean. No signs of forced entry. No struggle. His prints on the weapon. The angle of the shot is consistent with self-infliction." He paused. "Except for one thing. Marcus was left-handed. The gun was in his right hand." Shegz leaned forward, studying the photo more carefully. Walsh was right. Marcus had always favored his left hand, loading magazines, working on explosives, even drinking coffee. It was a small detail, but in their world, small details meant everything. "Someone staged it," Nicole said quietly. "That's what I thought too." Walsh pulled out more files. Then, 48 hours ago, Agent Reeves died in a car accident. Head-on collision on a straight highway in clear weather. Yesterday, Agent Chun, no relation to Deputy Director Chun, fell a flight of stairs at his home. Broken neck. 3 agents in 3 days, Shegz said. All from the Crimson Dawn operation. 4, actually. Walsh's voice dropped even lower. "This morning, we found Agent Torres dead from what appears to be carbon monoxide poisoning in his garage. Car running, garage door closed." The silence in the office was suffocating. Nicole was the first to speak. "They're cleaning house. Everyone connected to stopping the Covenant is being eliminated. It gets worse." Walsh opened his laptop and turned it toward them. On the screen was an encrypted message, partially decoded. Marcus had been investigating something before he died. His last search history shows he was looking into the Covenant's funding, where their money came from, who was backing them. Shegz scanned the decoded portions of the message. What he saw made his blood run cold. Wire transfers, offshore accounts, and routing numbers that traced back to legitimate U.S. financial institutions. Someone inside our government funded the Covenant. Nicole's voice was barely a whisper. That's what Marcus was starting to uncover. Walsh closed the laptop, and I think it got him killed. But there's more. Look at this. He pulled up surveillance footage from the parking garage across from FBI headquarters. The timestamp showed 2 days ago, early morning. A figure in dark clothing moved through the shadows, face obscured, setting up something on the roof of the adjacent building. This was taken 6 hours before someone took a shot at me, Walsh said. The footage continued. The figure finished their setup, clearly a sniper position, then disappeared. Later footage showed Walsh arriving at headquarters, walking from his car. Then, a muzzle flash from a roof. Walsh dove behind a concrete pillar as the bullet sparked off the pavement where he'd been standing seconds before. Security teams reached the position 3 minutes later. The shooter was gone, but they found this. Walsh placed an evidence bag on the desk. Inside was a single .338 Lapua Magnum cartridge casing. Know what's interesting about this? That's FBI sniper training ammunition, Shegz said. Exactly. Whoever took that shot was trained by us. Probably trained here, in this building. Walsh sat down heavily. We have a mole, and they're systematically eliminating everyone who knows about Operation Crimson Dawn. Nicole stood and walked to the window, processing. How many people had access to Crimson Dawn intelligence? Full access? 12 people. You two, me, Marcus, the 4 agents who are now dead, Ramirez, Jenkins, who's still recovering, and Deputy Director Sarah Chun. Walsh paused. And before you ask, no, I don't think it's Chun. She's been with the Bureau for 15 years. Impeccable record. She's actually the one who helped me piece this together. Then who? Shegz asked. I don't know. But whoever it is, they have access to everything. Our files, our operations, our safe houses. They know where we live, what we drive, our routines. Walsh pulled out another document. This came through an encrypted channel 2 hours ago. The message was simple and terrifying. Operation Midnight Sun. Active Phase 1. Complete 4/12. Phase 2. Commencing target acquisition. Confirmed timeline. 48 hours. Midnight Sun. Nicole read aloud. What is that? We don't know. But Marcus's last encrypted note mentioned it. He'd found references to it in the Covenant's communications. Walsh stood, moving to a secure safe in his office. He entered a code and removed a small hard drive. This is everything Marcus compiled before he died. He sent it to me with a dead man switch. If he didn't check in every 72 hours, it would automatically transmit. It arrived this morning. He plugged the drive into his computer. Files began appearing on screen. Financial records, encrypted communications, personnel files, and buried deep within a single document labeled Midnight_Protocol, the PDF. Walsh opened it. The document was heavily redacted, but what remained was chilling. Classified, level 5 clearance only. Operation Midnight Sun objective. Eliminate all witnesses to Crimson Dawn operation method. Staged accidents, apparent suicides, natural causes timeline. 12 targets, 72-hour execution window authorization. Redacted oversight. Redacted. Target list 01. Agent Williams status. Eliminated 02. Agent James Reeves status. Eliminated 03. Agent David Chun status. Eliminated 04. Agent Maria Torres status. Eliminated 05. Agent Shegz Morgan status. Active 06. Agent Nicole Rivera status. Active 07. Director Thomas Walsh status. Active 08. Sergeant Luis Ramirez status. Active 09. Agent Michael Jenkins status. Active redacted, redacted, redacted. We're on the list, Nicole said. Her voice steady despite the implications. All of us. And we have less than 48 hours before the protocol completes. Walsh shut down the computer. Here's what we know. Midnight Sun is an AI-driven assassination protocol. Once activated, it positions assets near each target and executes simultaneously using methods that appear accidental or self-inflicted. Car crashes are programmed to look like driver error. Gas leaks that seem like faulty equipment. Heart attacks induced by untraceable poisons. An AI-driven kill list, Shegz said. That's why the deaths looked so clean. No human error. Just algorithm-perfect executions. Exactly. And we can't stop it remotely because the system is air-gapped, not connected to any external network. The server running Midnight Sun is hidden somewhere inside this building, in a secure area called the Vault. Inside FBI headquarters, Nicole couldn't hide her disbelief. Someone is running an assassination program against FBI agents from inside FBI headquarters. That's exactly what Marcus discovered. Walsh moved to his wall safe and removed 3 go bags. Which is why you two can't stay here. The moment you walked into this building, whoever's running Midnight Sun knew you were here. They're watching us right now, probably through this building's own security cameras. Shegz felt the paranoia creeping in. How many times had he walked these halls feeling safe? How many security protocols had he helped design? All of it was useless if the threat was coming from inside. We go off-grid, Nicole said. Disappear until we can figure out who's behind this. That's the plan. Walsh handed them the bags. Cash, burner phones, weapons, fake IDs. Everything you need to stay invisible. But first, we need to get you out of here, without anyone knowing where you're going. A knock on the door made all 3 of them tense. Deputy Director Sarah Chun entered without waiting for a response. She was mid-50s, sharp-eyed, with silver-streaked black hair pulled back in a tight bun. Her expression was grave. Tom, we need to talk, she said, then noticed Shegz and Nicole. Good, you're here too. We have a situation. Chun, not now, Walsh started. Director. 3 more agents were just admitted to George Washington Hospital. Food poisoning, they think. But all 3 were part of the expanded Crimson Dawn task force. She placed a tablet on Walsh's desk showing security footage from the FBI cafeteria. This was taken an hour ago. The footage showed agents getting coffee and food. Nothing unusual. But Chun swiped to the thermal imaging overlay. Watch the coffee station. She pointed to a figure in civilian clothes, possibly a contractor or visitor, who briefly touched several coffee cups as he passed. Thermal shows his hand temperature was significantly lower than ambient. He was wearing a cooling glove. And watch what happens when he touches those cups. She zoomed in. The figure's fingers left no visible trace, but when she switched to the UV light spectrum, fluorescent markers appeared on the cups. Poison delivery system, Shegz said. The cold glove prevents absorption through his skin. The poison is in powder form, adheres to the cup rim. Victim drinks normally, doesn't taste anything unusual. And it looks like a contamination issue or food poisoning, Nicole added. Another perfect accident. Except we caught it this time. Chun pulled up another image. I had security pull all visitor logs from the past week. This man, she pointed to the figure in the footage, doesn't exist. The badge he's wearing belongs to a contractor who called in sick today. Someone inside gave him access. Walsh's face darkened. How many people have access to issue contractor badges? 17 people at deputy, director level or above. Chun met his eyes. Including me. Tom, I think you need to consider that someone at the highest levels is compromised. The weight of her words settled over the room. 17 people. Any one of them could be running Midnight Sunday. Any one of them could be the architect. We need to shut down that server, Shegz said. If we can access the vault. Impossible, Chun interrupted. The vault requires deputy director clearance and biometric authentication. Even if you had my badge, you'd need my handprint, retinal scan, and voice authentication. And it's monitored 24/7. Then we make it possible, Nicole said. We break in. The room went silent. Breaking into the vault meant breaking into one of the most secure locations in the FBI. It meant going through security systems they'd helped design. It meant betraying everything they'd sworn to protect. If you do that, you become fugitives, Walsh said quietly. The moment you're caught attempting to access the vault, every agent in this building will hunt you. You'll be branded as traitors. Your careers will be over. You could spend the rest of your lives in federal prison. And if we don't, Shegz countered, we die in 48 hours. Along with you, Ramirez, Jenkins, and whoever else is on that list. Walsh looked at both of them for a long moment. Then he reached into his desk and pulled out his service weapon. He checked the magazine, chambered around, and set it on the desk. Then we have work to do. Over the next hour, Chun brought in more intelligence. She'd been quietly investigating Walsh's suspicions for the past week, ever since the pattern of deaths had become clear. What she'd found was damning. Operation Crimson Dawn wasn't supposed to be stopped, she explained, spreading documents across Walsh's desk. Look at the funding trail. The Covenant received over $50 million through shell corporations over 3 years. But the money didn't come from terrorist organizations or foreign governments. It came from black budget accounts within the U.S. intelligence community. Someone in our own government funded the Covenant. Nicole asked. Someone very high up. High enough to access classified budgets. High enough to authorize payments without oversight. Chun pulled up personnel files. I've been cross-referencing everyone with the required clearance against travel records, financial irregularities, and proximity to key decisions. There's one person who fits every parameter. She turned her laptop toward them. Walsh's face went white. The profile on screen showed a distinguished career. 30 years with the Bureau. Multiple commendations. Oversight of dozens of successful operations. Access to everything. Director Thomas Walsh. No, Walsh said immediately. No, this is wrong. Chun, you know me. I do know you, Tom. That's why I don't believe you're the architect. Chun pulled up more data. But someone wants us to think you are. Look at this. Every piece of evidence points to you. Your financial records show offshore accounts with matching deposit dates to Covenant funding. Your travel logs place you in 3 cities where Covenant cells operated, exactly 1 day before major attacks. Your security clearance gives you access to everything needed to run both Crimson Dawn and Midnight Sunday. I'm being framed, Walsh said. Obviously. But it's a good frame. Good enough that when Midnight Sun completes and 12 agents are dead, you'll be the perfect scapegoat. The director who went rogue. The mastermind orchestrating terrorism to justify increased Bureau funding and power. You'll be arrested, tried, and convicted. The real architect walks away clean. Shegz studied the evidence. It was too perfect. Too convenient. Someone had spent years building this case against Walsh, knowing that eventually they'd need a fall guy. Who benefits if Walsh goes down, he asked. Whoever takes his job. Nicole answered immediately. The next director of the FBI would have unlimited power, unlimited access, and no one looking over their shoulder because everyone would be focused on Walsh's trial. Chun nodded slowly. There's a short list for Walsh's replacement if anything happens to him. 3 candidates. But only one has been actively positioning themselves for the role. She pulled up a new profile. Shegz felt his stomach drop. Deputy Director Sarah Chun. Chun looked at the screen showing her own face, then smiled coldly. Clever. They're framing both of us. Tom as the architect and me as his replacement. The Bureau tears itself apart investigating its own leadership, while the real architect continues operating. Then who is it? Walsh demanded. If it's not you, and it's not me, who the hell is running Midnight Sun? Before anyone could answer, the lights in Walsh's office flickered. The computer screens went dark for a split second, then rebooted. When they came back online, a message was displayed on every screen. You're closer than you think, but not close enough. Midnight Sun. 36 hours remaining. Good luck, agents. AC. The Architect Collective. They were being watched right now. Everything they discussed, every plan they'd made, the architect knew it all. Walsh moved fast. He ripped the power cables from his computers, smashed his phone against the desk, and grabbed the go bags. We move. Now. Chun, if you're with us, you're coming. If you're the architect, I'll know soon enough and I'll put you down myself. Fair enough, Chun said, pulling her own service weapon. But we need to get Ramirez and Jenkins first. If Midnight Sun is accelerating, they're in immediate danger. They moved quickly through FBI headquarters, trying to act normal while paranoia gnawed at every decision. Every agent they passed could be an asset. Every camera could be watching. Every door could be a trap. Ramirez was at his desk in the Tactical Operations Department when they found him. His shoulder was still bandaged from the car bombing 3 weeks ago, but he was back on duty. When he saw Walsh, Chun, Shegz, and Nicole approaching together with tight expressions, he knew immediately. "It's happening, isn't it?" he said quietly. "We're blown," Walsh confirmed. "Grab your gear. We're leaving." "What about Jenkins?" Nicole asked. "Still at the hospital." Chun checked her tablet. Walter Reed Medical Center. Private room, 5th floor. Security detail outside his door. Security detail? Shegz felt alarm bells ringing. Since when does a recovering agent get a security detail? Chen's face paled. "Since I ordered it this morning. I thought I was protecting him." "Or marking him for execution," Walsh said grimly. "We need to get there now." They took 2 vehicles, Walsh and Chun in one, Shegz, Nicole, and Ramirez in another. The drive to Walter Reed took 30 minutes through DC traffic. 30 minutes of checking mirrors for tails, watching for ambush, feeling the weight of time slipping away. They reached the hospital and moved quickly but carefully through the main entrance. 5th floor. Private room, 517. 2 agents stood outside, both in bureau windbreakers, both armed. Walsh approached them directly. "I need to see Agent Jenkins." "Sorry, Director Walsh," the closer agent said. "No visitors except approved medical staff." "Deputy Director Chen's orders." "I'm right here," Chen said, moving beside Walsh. "Stand down. We're taking Jenkins into protective custody." The agent's hand moved to his weapon. "I'm sorry, Deputy Director, but my orders were very specific. No one enters this room. Not even you." Something was very wrong. Shegz caught Nicole's eye. She nodded slightly, her hand sliding toward her concealed weapon. Ramirez shifted position, blocking the hallway behind them. "Who gave you those orders?" Walsh asked carefully. "You did, sir. This morning." Encrypted memo marked urgent and classified. "I never sent any memo," Walsh said. The agent's eyes flickered with confusion, then hardened with training. His hand closed on his weapon. "Sir, I need you to step back. All of you. I'm calling this in." The room door behind him exploded. The blast threw both security agents forward, their bodies shielding Walsh and the others from the worst of the shockwave. Shegz at the ground, pulling Nicole down with him. Ramirez was already moving, weapon drawn, covering their position. Alarms shrieked throughout the hospital. Smoke billowed from room 517. Through the haze, Shegz could see inside. The room was destroyed. Medical equipment shredded. The bed torn apart. And in the center of it all, nothing remained that could be identified as human. Jenkins was gone. "Move," Walsh shouted, and they ran. Security teams were already responding, moving toward the explosion. In the chaos, no one noticed the director and 4 agents running the opposite direction. They reached the parking garage and their vehicles, tires screaming as they fled the scene. "That was meant for all of us," Chen said as they regrouped at a safe house across the Potomac. "The fake orders, the security detail, the bomb. They were waiting for us to show up." "Which means they're always one step ahead," Nicole added. "Every move we make, they anticipate. Every plan we form, they counter." Because they can see everything, Shegz realized. They're not just watching the FBI. They're inside our heads. They know how we think, how we operate, what we'll do next. Walsh paced the safe house, really just abandoned warehouse Chen had used for off-books operations. "Then we stop thinking like agents. We go dark, completely dark. No phones, no computers, no connection to anything the architect can monitor. And we use that darkness to get into the vault," Nicole said. "It's the only way. The server running Midnight Sun is air-gapped for security. But that also means it's vulnerable. If we can physically access it, we can shut it down." "Breaking into FBI headquarters to save the FBI," Ramirez said with dark humor. "That's a new one. We'll need a plan," Chen said. "The vault is on sublevel 3. accessed through a single elevator that requires clearance. The elevator itself is monitored. The hallway is monitored. The vault door has biometric locks that need my clearance. And inside, the server room is guarded by at least 2 agents at all times. So we need to get you to the vault without anyone knowing you're there, Shegz said, formulating a plan. Which means we need a diversion. Something big enough to pull security away from sub-level 3. And we need to do it tonight. Walsh checked his watch. We're down to 32 hours. If we wait, more assets will be positioned. More fail-safes will activate. By tomorrow, Midnight Sun might be unstoppable. They spent the next 6 hours planning. Every detail examined. Every contingency is considered. What they were attempting was borderline impossible. Infiltrating FBI headquarters, accessing one of the most secure areas in the building, and stopping an AI-driven assassination protocol, all while being hunted by their own agency. But they had advantages. They'd helped design many of the security systems. They knew the blind spots, the shift changes, the protocols. And most importantly, they had nothing left to lose. Night fell over DC. In the safe house, 5 fugitive agents prepared for what might be their last mission. Walsh distributed weapons and equipment. Chun reviewed building schematics one final time. Ramirez checked and rechecked his gear despite his injured shoulder. Shegz and Nicole stood together by the window, watching the city lights. If this goes wrong, Nicole started. It won't, Shegz interrupted. But if it does, I need you to know. I know. He turned to face her. I've always known. She smiled, but her eyes were serious. 3 years. 32 operations. And I've trusted you with my life every single time. 33 operations now, he corrected. And this time, we're trusting each other with everyone's lives. No pressure, she said with dark humor. Walsh called them over. Time to move. Remember, we get one chance at this. The moment they know we're inside, we have maybe 5 minutes before the entire building locks down. Chun gets to the vault, accesses the server, and shuts down Midnight Sunday. The rest of us make sure she gets there, no matter what. And if the architect is waiting for us? Ramirez asked. Then we do what we've always done, Walsh said grimly. We adapt. They left the safe house in darkness, moving through DC like ghosts. The FBI headquarters building loomed ahead, a fortress of steel and concrete. Somewhere inside, an AI was counting down to their deaths. Somewhere inside, the architect was watching, waiting, confident in their victory. But they'd underestimated one thing. These 5 agents weren't just trained operators. They were survivors. They'd faced impossible odds before and won. They'd stared down terrorists, defused bombs with seconds remaining, and saved a city from destruction. Tonight, they would save themselves. The infiltration began at 11 p.m. Chun used her credentials to access a service entrance, typically reserved for contractors. Security waved her through. Deputy Director Chun working late was nothing unusual. But hidden in her briefcase were 5 security badges programmed with ghost codes, untraceable in the system. Walsh entered through the parking garage, using his director's pass. No one questioned his late arrival. He'd been working around the clock lately. Security nodded respectfully as he passed. Shegz, Nicole, and Ramirez came in separately, using ventilation access points and maintenance corridors they'd memorized years ago. By 11:30, all 5 were inside, moving through blind spots in camera coverage, avoiding patrols, heading toward their designated positions. The diversion had to be perfect. Too small, and security wouldn't respond. Too large, and they'd lock down the entire building, including the vault. Chun had designed it carefully. A simulated intrusion alert on the 7th floor, far enough from sub-level 3 to draw responders away. At 11:45, Walsh triggered the alert from a compromised terminal. Immediately, alarms sounded on the 7th floor. Security teams mobilized, moving to investigate the breach. The sub-level 3 guards received orders to hold their positions, but stay alert. Chun waited until the security rotation changed at midnight. For exactly 90 seconds, there was a gap in coverage as the previous shift logged out and the new shift logged in. She moved during that window, reaching the elevator to sublevel 3 without being seen. The elevator descended. The hallway beyond was empty, the guards drawn away by the diversion. Chen moved quickly to the vault door, her hand on the biometric scanner, her eye to the retinal reader, her voice providing the authentication code. The massive door began to open, and then everything went wrong. Lights snapped on throughout the hallway. The elevator behind Chun locked down. Steel barriers dropped from the ceiling, sealing the corridor. And from the shadows emerged a figure Chun had known for 15 years. "Hello, Sarah," said Director Thomas Walsh, holding a weapon trained on her center mass. "I've been waiting for you." But Chun was standing beside Nicole and Shegz, 50 feet down the hallway. They'd all entered together, which meant, "No," Chun breathed, understanding dawning. "You're not Walsh." The figure smiled. "Very perceptive. But then again, you always were the smart one." He reached up and peeled away a prosthetic mask, revealing the face underneath. Shegz felt reality tilt. It was a face he'd seen in photographs. A face that supposedly belonged to a dead man. "Exodus." "Impossible," Shegz said. "You died. In the compound. Your injuries were theatrical, Exodus, or whoever he really was, said calmly. A necessary sacrifice to sell the illusion. You see, Operation Crimson Dawn was never about the bombs. It was about identifying the best agents the FBI had to offer. Agents who could stop an impossible threat. Agents who could be manipulated, controlled, and eventually eliminated. "You're the architect," Nicole said. "One of them. The Architect Collective has 13 heads. I'm just one. But I've been waiting for this moment for 3 years." He gestured to the vault behind him. "Do you know what's really in here? Not just the server running midnight Sunday. That's here, yes. But there's something else. Something much more valuable. The evidence," Chun realized. "The proof of the collective's operations. The names. The accounts. Everything." "Exactly. And the moment you walked into this building tonight, trying to be heroes, you gave me the perfect cover story. 5 rogue agents, driven mad by PTSD, attempting to steal classified intelligence. You'll die trying to breach the vault, unfortunately. Shot by security while resisting arrest. Very tragic. Very convenient." From the shadows behind him, more figures emerged. Not FBI agents. Private contractors. Mercenaries. All armed. All moving to surround the 5 agents. "You used Walsh's identity," Shegz said, playing for time. "But the real Walsh is dead. Has been for 3 months. Heart attack in his office. Natural causes. Very sad. I took his place that same day." The man wearing Walsh's face smiled coldly. "You've been taking orders from the Architect Collective for months, without knowing it." Chen's hand moved slowly toward her weapon. "Then who the hell are you? Does it matter? I've had so many names. So many faces. So many identities. Right now, I'm Thomas Walsh, Director of the FBI. Tomorrow, after you're all dead, I'll continue being him. And the collective will continue our work reshaping the world." By funding terrorism? Nicole demanded. By killing innocent people? By creating the threats necessary to maintain control. Governments need enemies to justify their power. We simply provide them. Controlled chaos, managed terror, and profits beyond measure. He raised his weapon. "But this has been an enlightening conversation. Time to end it." The moment stretched. 5 agents, 20 mercenaries, impossible odds. Shegz met Nicole's eyes. She gave the smallest nod. Ramirez shifted his weight imperceptibly. Chen's finger touched her weapon. The real Walsh, because the man before them wasn't Walsh, had never been Walsh, remained in whatever position he'd taken. And then chaos erupted. Shegz moved first, diving left as he drew his weapon. Nicole went right, already firing. Ramirez charged forward with a roar despite his injured shoulder. Chun dropped and rolled, coming up with her weapon blazing. And from the elevator behind them, the real Thomas Walsh emerged, wounded, limping, but alive, adding his fire to the battle. Got your message. Walsh shouted over the gunfire. Couldn't let you have all the fun. The firefight was brutal. Close quarters. No cover except the bodies of fallen mercenaries. The fake Walsh retreated into the vault, sealing the door behind him. But Chun was already moving, reaching the biometric scanner, overriding it with emergency codes she'd memorized. The vault door opened. Inside, a massive server farm hummed with digital life. And at the center, the AI running Midnight Sun displayed its countdown. Operation Midnight Sun status. Active targets remaining. 5/12 execution. 14 hours, 23 minutes. 13 hours. Not 32. The timeline had accelerated. He's escaping. Ramirez shouted. Through the server farm, the fake Walsh was running toward another exit. An emergency tunnel Chun had never known existed. Shegz and Nicole chased after him, weapons drawn, while Chun worked on shutting down the AI. The tunnel opened into a parking garage 3 blocks from FBI headquarters. The fake Walsh reached a waiting vehicle, but before he could enter, Nicole's shot took out the front tire. The man spun, returning fire, forcing them to cover. It's over. Shegz called out. Surrender, and maybe you live to see a trial. The fake Walsh laughed. You still don't understand. Midnight Sun can't be stopped. Not by destroying the server. Not by killing me. The protocol is distributed across 12 backup servers worldwide. Destroying one just activates the others. In 13 hours, you all die. And the Architect Collective continues. Then give us the shutdown code, Nicole said. Why would I do that? Because if you don't, I put the next bullet through your head instead of your tire. The man considered, then smiled. The code changes every hour, generated by an algorithm known only to the 12 other architects. I couldn't give it to you, even if I wanted to. But I'll tell you this, there is one way to stop it. One person who can override the protocol. The first architect. The one who designed Midnight Sunday. Who? Shegz demanded. Find them in 13 hours, and you might survive. Good luck, agents. You'll need it. He pulled something from his jacket. Not a weapon. A device. He pressed it. The device triggered explosives planted throughout the garage. The blast wave threw Shegz and Nicole backward. When they recovered, coughing through smoke and dust, the fake Walsh was gone. Disappeared into the DC night. They returned to the vault to find Chun had isolated the server running Midnight Sun, but couldn't shut it down. Walsh, the real Walsh, was tending to wounds taken in the firefight. Ramirez was on the phone, trying to coordinate the evacuation of the other targets on the list. I can delay it, Chun said, her fingers flying over keyboards. Give us maybe 6 more hours. But I can't stop it completely. He was right, there are backup servers. 11 of them, according to the code. If I destroy this one, the protocol just shifts to the next server in the chain. Then we need to find the first architect, Nicole said. The one who designed this. In 6 hours, Shegz added, while being hunted by the FBI, local police, and the Architect Collective. Walsh leaned against a server rack, his face gray with pain and exhaustion. The FBI will issue arrest warrants for all of us within the hour. We just broke into headquarters, engaged in a firefight, and caused extensive damage to federal property. Every law enforcement agency in the country will be hunting us. Then we go underground, Ramirez said, completely off-grid. Use the network of safe houses Chun has set up. That won't be enough, Chun said, still working on the terminal. Look at this. Midnight Sun isn't just targeting us for assassination. It's framing us. Financial records being altered right now to show we received payments from the Covenant. Communications being fabricated showing we plan terrorist attacks. By morning, we won't just be fugitives, we'll be traitors. Shegz moved beside her, studying the screen. Files were being modified in real time across government databases. Bank accounts showing suspicious transfers. Emails being inserted into archives. Phone records being created. It was a complete character assassination, executed with algorithmic precision. The collective is erasing us, Nicole said quietly. Not just killing us. Making sure that even after we're dead, History remembers us as criminals. Unless we expose them first, Walsh said. We need proof. Undeniable evidence of the Architect Collective's existence and operations. Something that can't be explained away or buried. Chen stopped typing and turned to face them. Marcus found something before he died. He mentioned it in his final message, a cache of physical evidence. Documents, recordings, financial ledgers. Everything needed to expose the collective. He hid it somewhere safe. Where? Shegz asked. He didn't say exactly, but he left a clue. Chen pulled up Marcus's last encrypted message. He wrote, "Where we learned to trust each other with our lives." That was meant for you two specifically. Shegz and Nicole exchanged a look. They'd served with Marcus on dozens of operations, but there was one place that stood out. One location where everything had changed. Kandahar, Nicole said. 3 years ago. The mission that went sideways. Shegz nodded slowly, remembering. It had been their first operation together as partners. A supposed intelligence-gathering mission that turned into a firefight when their cover was blown. Marcus had saved both their lives that day, taking shrapnel meant for Nicole. They'd spent 2 days trapped in a safe house while Taliban forces searched the city, learning to trust each other with everything they had. But that was in Afghanistan, Ramirez pointed out. We can't exactly fly to Kandahar with every law enforcement agency hunting us. He wouldn't hide it there, Shegz said, working through Marcus's logic. He'd hide it somewhere that reminded us of Kandahar. Somewhere with the same meaning. The training facility, Nicole realized. Where they simulate foreign operations. Building 7 at Quantico. There's a full-scale replica of the Kandahar Safehouse we used. Marcus helped design it based on our after-action reports. Quantico is crawling with federal agents, Walsh said. Especially now. They'll be expecting us to go there. Which is exactly why Marcus would choose it, Chen said. Hide something in plain sight, in a location your enemies control. They'd never think to look. Walsh checked his weapon, wincing at the pain in his side. Then we go to Quantico. 6 hours to find Marcus's evidence, expose the collective, and stop midnight Sunday simple. Nothing about this is simple, Ramirez said. But he was already checking his gear, preparing to move. They left FBI headquarters through the emergency tunnel the fake Walsh had used, emerging in a parking garage 3 blocks away. Chun had vehicles waiting, unremarkable sedans that wouldn't draw attention. They split into 2 groups again. Walsh and Ramirez in one car, Shegz, Nicole, and Chun in another. The drive to Quantico took an hour through pre-dawn darkness. They stayed off main highways, using back roads Chun had mapped for exactly this kind of situation. Every set of headlights behind them could be pursuit. Every police car they passed could be the one that recognized them. Chun, Nicole said from the back seat. How long have you known Walsh was replaced? Chun was quiet for a moment. Navigating a turn. 2 weeks. Small things at first. Different coffee order. Forgetting operational details he should have known. Then the decisions started changing. More aggressive. More willing to accept collateral damage. The real Walsh would never have authorized some of the operations we ran last month. But you didn't report it, Shegz said. To who? If Walsh was compromised, who could I trust? The whole chain of command could be infected. So I started my own investigation, built my own evidence file, prepared for the moment when I'd need to act. She glanced at them in the rear-view mirror. I just didn't expect it to happen this fast. Where's the real Walsh been all this time? Nicole asked. Prisoner, probably. The collective would keep him alive in case they needed him for something. A video message, a fingerprint, DNA evidence. He's too valuable to kill immediately. Then how did he escape to help us? Chun smiled grimly. I may have arranged that. Left certain doors unlocked. Certain guards on breaks at convenient times. Sometimes the best way to smoke out an imposter is to bring back the original. They reached Quantico's perimeter at 4 a.m. The training facility sprawled across hundreds of acres, firing ranges, obstacle courses, mock cities for urban warfare training, and dozens of buildings housing everything from classrooms to advanced simulation centers. Building 7 was on the eastern edge of the complex, used primarily for foreign environment training. The Kandahar Safehouse replica was in the basement level, along with simulations of locations in Moscow, Jakarta, and other international hotspots. Security will be tight, Walsh said over the radio. After what happened at headquarters, every federal facility will be on high alert. Then we don't go through security, Shegz said. We go under it. He directed them to the north side of the complex, where drainage tunnels provided maintenance access. 3 years ago, during their advanced tactical training, he and Nicole had mapped these tunnels for a training exercise. The instructors had been impressed by their thoroughness. Now that knowledge would save their lives. They entered the tunnels at 4:30 a.m. Cold water ran through concrete passages barely wide enough to walk upright. The smell was industrial, rust and old water and decay. Shegz led the way, using a tactical light to navigate intersections he remembered from memory. This tunnel should open into Building 7's subbasement, he said quietly. From there, we take maintenance stairs up to the basement level where the Kandahar simulation is. They reached the access hatch 20 minutes later. Shegz carefully opened it, listening for movement above. Silence. They climbed up into a mechanical room filled with HVAC equipment and electrical panels. Beyond a steel door, they could hear the normal sounds of a facility coming to life. Distant voices, footsteps, the hum of activity. It's 5 a.m., Chin whispered. Morning shift starts in 30 minutes. We need to move fast. They made their way through maintenance corridors, avoiding the main hallways where security cameras were active. The basement level housing the international simulations was supposed to be restricted access, but Chen's credentials still worked. Apparently, the fake Walsh hadn't revoked them yet. The Kandahar Safehouse simulation was at the end of a long corridor. The door was locked, but Ramirez made quick work of it with a bypass tool. They entered and found themselves in an exact replica of the building where Shegz, Nicole, and Marcus had spent 2 desperate days 3 years ago. Everything was perfect. The same worn furniture. The same bullet holes in the walls from the firefight that had preceded their refuge. The same view from the window, actually a high-definition screen, showing Kandahar streets. It was like stepping back in time. Where would he hide something here? Walsh asked, looking around the space. Nicole moved through the rooms, remembering. Marcus spent most of his time in the back room. He was monitoring radio traffic, trying to coordinate our extraction while we held off the search parties. They moved to the back room. It was smaller, dominated by a table that held radio equipment in the original location and training materials in this replica. Nicole ran her hands along the walls, checking for hollow spaces. Shegz examined the floor, looking for loose boards. Wait, Ramirez said. He was studying the radio equipment on the table. This isn't standard training gear. This is real operational equipment. Chin examined it more closely. He's right. This is a functioning, encrypted radio. And it's been used recently. The power indicator shows it's been active within the last week. Shegz turned on the radio. Static filled the room. He adjusted frequencies, searching for anything unusual. Most channels were dead or showed only background noise. But on one frequency, buried in static, was a signal. A voice. Marcus's voice. Recorded, playing on a loop. If you're hearing this, you made it. I knew you would. Shegz, Nicole, I'm sorry I couldn't tell you directly. By the time you hear this message, I'll be dead. They've been watching me too closely. But I found it. I found proof of everything. The Architect Collective. Their operations going back 30 years. Names, faces, financial records, operational plans. Everything. The recording continued. Marcus's voice calm despite the weight of his words. The evidence is here in this room. Hidden where only you would think to look. Remember Kandahar? Remember what I told you when we thought we weren't going to make it out? I said, if I die here, tell my daughter I hid her birthday present in the place where we kept our secrets. You thought I was delirious from the pain meds. But I wasn't. Nicole's eyes widened. The ventilation shaft. We stored our extra ammunition there. Marcus called it the place where we kept our secrets because we didn't want headquarters knowing how much ordnance we'd acquired. They found the ventilation grate in the ceiling. Shegz climbed on a chair and removed it. Inside, wrapped in waterproof material, was a small hard drive. "Got it," he said, handing it down to Chun. She immediately pulled out a laptop and connected the drive. Files began appearing on screen. Thousands of them. Financial ledgers showing money flowing from legitimate government accounts into offshore shell corporations and eventually to terrorist organizations. Communications between members of the Architect Collective discussing operations. Video footage of planning meetings. Personnel files on all 13 architects. "This is it," Chun breathed. "This is everything we need. We can expose the entire operation." "And identify the first architect," Walsh added, looking over her shoulder. "The one who can stop midnight Sunday." Chun opened the personnel files and sorted by hierarchy. At the top of the list was a name that made everyone in the room go cold. Admiral James Hawthorne, retired, former Director of National Intelligence, current Chairman of the Senate Intelligence Committee. "Hawthorne," Walsh said quietly. "I've known him for 20 years. He's been in government for 40. He has access to everything. Controls funding for every intelligence agency. He could have orchestrated all of this." "The timeline fits," Chun said, reading through Hawthorne's file. "The Architect Collective was formed 32 years ago. Hawthorne was CIA station chief in Berlin at the time. That's when it started. Small operations, funding anti-Soviet resistance groups. Then it grew. More operations. More funding. More control. By the time he became DNI, the collective was operating on 5 continents." Nicole was reading another section of the file. "He designed Midnight Sun 7 years ago as a contingency. A way to eliminate anyone who got too close to discovering the collective. It's been sitting dormant all this time, waiting to be activated. And now it's counting down to kill us in," Shegz checked his watch, 4 hours and 17 minutes. "We need to get to Hawthorne," Ramirez said. "Force him to shut down the protocol." "He's in D.C., Chun said, pulling up his schedule. "But he's not at home or his office. He's attending a closed-door intelligence briefing at the Pentagon. Surrounded by security. Impossible to reach." "Nothing's impossible," Walsh said. "We've come this far. We're not stopping now." They uploaded Marcus's files to encrypted cloud storage, creating multiple backup copies. If they failed, at least the evidence would survive. Then they prepared to move. But as they exited Building 7, alarms began to sound throughout the Quantico facility. "They found us," Nicole said. Through the windows, they could see security teams mobilizing. Vehicles moving toward their position. Armed agents taking up positions around the building's exits. "We're trapped," Ramirez said. Chun was already on her laptop, accessing Quantico's security systems. "Not trapped. Just surrounded. There's a difference." "Care to explain?" Walsh asked. "Building 7 has an underground vehicle bay for tactical training. Armored vehicles stored there for urban warfare exercises." She smiled. "I say we borrow one." They made their way to the sub-basement vehicle bay. Inside were 3 armored personnel carriers, 2 tactical trucks, and assorted other vehicles. Shegz chose an APC, heavy armor, powerful engine, capable of ramming through obstacles. "Everyone in," he said, taking the driver's seat. Nicole climbed into the turret position. Walsh, Chun, and Ramirez took positions in the back, weapons ready. Shegz started the engine. The APC roared to life. He drove toward the vehicle bay's main doors, locked and reinforced. "Hold on," he said, and floored the accelerator. The APC smashed through the doors like they were cardboard. Alarms shrieked. Security teams scattered as the armored vehicle burst into the morning light. Gunfire sparked off the armor, but nothing penetrated. Nicole operated the turret, using non-lethal suppressive fire to keep pursuers at bay. They weren't trying to hurt their fellow agents, just escape. The APC crashed through the Quantico perimeter fence and hit the main road at 60 miles per hour. Pursuit vehicles followed, but the armored vehicles' head start gave them precious seconds. Head for Route 1, Chin directed. I have a backup safe house 30 miles north. We can ditch the APC and switch vehicles there. Behind them, a dozen federal vehicles gave chase, lights flashing, sirens wailing. But Shegz had trained in evasive driving at this very facility. He knew every technique they'd use, every tactic they'd employ. 20 minutes later, they reached Chen's Safehouse, an abandoned industrial building on the outskirts of Fredericksburg. They abandoned the APC and switched to a civilian van Chen had stored there. Within 5 minutes, they were back on the road, anonymous in morning traffic. 3 hours, Walsh said, checking his watch. 3 hours to reach Hawthorne, get him to shut down Midnight Sun, and somehow avoid arrest long enough to expose the collective. The Pentagon briefing ends at 10 a.m., Chin said. Hawthorne will leave through the east security entrance. He always does. That's our window. We intercept him in transit, Shegz said. Force his vehicle off the road. Take him into custody. Kidnapping a sitting senator and former DNI, Ramirez said. Just adding to our list of federal crimes. At this point, what's one more? Nicole said with dark humor. They reached the Pentagon's vicinity at 9:30 a.m. Chun had identified Hawthorne's motorcade route, armored limousine, 2 security vehicles, traveling via Memorial Bridge back to the Senate. We have one shot, Walsh said. Hit them on the bridge. 'Cause a collision that disables the security vehicles, but leaves Hawthorne's car operable. Shegz, you'll need to thread a needle here. I've threaded smaller needles, Shegz said, positioning their van at the bridge entrance. At 9:47 a.m., Hawthorne's motorcade appeared. 3 vehicles moving in precise formation. Professional security. Former Secret Service, most likely. They'd trained for ambushes, for attacks, for every possible threat. But they hadn't trained for what happened next. Shegz accelerated the van, timing it perfectly. He sideswiped the lead security vehicle, sending it spinning into the concrete barrier. Nicole was already out, firing at the tires of the second security vehicle. Chun deployed a spike strip that shredded the remaining tires. In the chaos, Ramirez and Walsh converged on Hawthorne's limousine. They pulled the stunned admiral from the vehicle before his security team could respond. Within 30 seconds, they had him in their van and were accelerating away from the bridge. Behind them, security teams scrambled to respond. Radio traffic exploded with reports of the attack. Every police unit in D.C. would be looking for them now. In the back of the van, Walsh pushed Admiral Hawthorne into a seat. The man was in his 70s, silver-haired, distinguished, wearing an expensive suit. He looked more annoyed than afraid. Director Walsh, Hawthorne said calmly. Or should I say, the real Director Walsh? I heard my colleague was impersonating you. How did you escape? Answer our questions, and maybe you live to see a trial, Walsh said coldly. I'm 73 years old with terminal cancer, Hawthorne replied. I have perhaps 6 months to live. Do you really think threats of imprisonment concern me? Then do it for legacy, Nicole said, showing him Marcus's hard drive. We have everything. Every operation. Every account. Every name. The Architect Collective is finished. But you can save 12 people's lives if you shut down Midnight Sun right now. Hawthorne studied the hard drive, then smiled sadly. Marcus Williams was more thorough than I gave him credit for. That evidence will indeed destroy the collective. Congratulations. You've won. Then shut it down, Shegz demanded. I can't. You designed it. You have the override codes. I did design it, but I built in a failsafe even I can't control. Once Midnight Sun is activated and reaches the final 6-hour countdown, it becomes autonomous. No override possible. No shutdown mechanism. It runs to completion regardless of external input. He checked his watch. And you're now at 2 hours, 43 minutes. There's nothing I or anyone else can do to stop it. The words hit like a physical blow. All of this, the infiltration, the chase, the evidence gathering, for nothing. They were still going to die. There has to be a way, Chin said. There is one, Hawthorne said. Destroy all 12 backup servers simultaneously. Midnight Sun is distributed across 12 locations worldwide. If even one server remains active, the protocol continues. But if you destroy all 12 in a synchronized strike, the AI collapses. The targets survive. 12 servers, Walsh said. 12 locations. In less than 3 hours. That's impossible. Not impossible, Chen said, already working on her laptop. Marcus's files include the server locations. If we can coordinate simultaneous strikes. With what forces? Ramirez asked. We're 5 fugitives in a van. We have no authority, no backup, no resources. We have the evidence, Nicole said. We can expose the collective right now. Upload Marcus's files to every news organization, every government watchdog, every media outlet simultaneously. Create such a massive scandal that the collective has to respond. While they're in chaos, we hit the servers. It would work, Walsh said slowly. But someone needs to coordinate the strikes. And someone needs to physically access at least some of those servers to destroy them. We can't do both. Shegz looked at Nicole. They'd worked together long enough to communicate without words. She nodded. We split up, Shegz said. Chen, you and Walsh coordinate from here. Use Marcus's evidence to recruit help. Agents who aren't compromised, military units we can trust, international contacts. Get teams to those server locations. Nicole and I will take the closest servers ourselves. We have 2 hours. We can hit maybe 3 or 4 locations if we move fast. That leaves 8 servers for us to coordinate strikes on, Chen said. With no official authority and every law enforcement agency hunting us. Then we use unofficial authority, Walsh said. I know people. Good people who've been suspecting something was wrong for years. People who'll believe Marcus's evidence when they see it. Give me access to secure communications and I can assemble teams. Hawthorne was watching them with something like admiration. You're actually going to try this. 5 fugitive agents against a 30-year-old international conspiracy. The odds of success are less than 3%. We've beaten worse odds, Nicole said. 3% is better than 0, Shegz added. They ditched the van and split up. Chun and Walsh disappeared into a secure communications center Chun had established months ago. A black site even the collective didn't know about. From there, they began uploading Marcus's files and reaching out to trusted contacts. Shegz, Nicole, and Ramirez took a different vehicle toward the first server location, a data center in Baltimore disguised as a cloud storage facility. According to Marcus's files, it held one of the primary Midnight Sun nodes. As they drove, Chen's voice came through their earpieces. I've made contact with 6 teams. 3 in the US, 1 in London, 1 in Frankfurt, and 1 in Tokyo. They're moving toward their designated server locations now. But we're running out of time. 2 hours, 11 minutes. What about the other 6 servers? Shegz asked. Working on it. Walsh is calling in every favor he's ever earned. But some of these locations are in hostile territory. Syria, North Korea, places where we have no official presence. Then we get creative, Ramirez said. What about the evidence? Have you released it yet? Broadcasting now to every major news outlet, government oversight committee, and international intelligence agency. It's going viral. The collective will know within minutes that they're exposed. Which meant they'd also know exactly what Shegz and his team were trying to do. Every remaining collective asset would be mobilized to protect those servers. They reached the Baltimore data center at 10:30 a.m. 1 hour, 37 minutes remaining. The facility was a nondescript building in an industrial park. Security cameras covered every approach. Armed guards patrolled the perimeter. Subtle approach isn't going to work, Nicole said. Then we go loud, Shegz agreed. Ramirez, your demolitions. What do we need to destroy that server completely? Thermite charge directly on the server hardware. Burns hot enough to melt through any shielding. But I'll need to place it manually, which means getting inside. They parked 2 blocks away and approached on foot. Shegz and Nicole provided suppressive fire, while Ramirez breached the main entrance. Guards responded immediately, but they were corporate security, not trained operators. Within 3 minutes, Ramirez had reached the server room. Placing charge now, he said into comms. 30-second fuse. Clear the building. They ran. Behind them, the thermite charge ignited with white-hot intensity. The explosion wasn't large, but the heat was incredible. The server melted into slag in seconds. 1 down, Chen's voice confirmed. 11 to go. But we have a problem. The collective is responding. They're sending teams to protect the remaining servers. And they've issued a massive bounty for your capture. $20 million. Every mercenary and bounty hunter in the region will be looking for you. Let them look, Shegz said. Where's the next server? Philadelphia, 40 miles north. But you need to hurry. We've lost contact with the London team. Their server is still active. The drive to Philadelphia took 35 minutes through midday traffic. 1 hour, 2 minutes remaining when they reached the location, a financial services building downtown. This one was more secure. Professional mercenaries had arrived first, setting up a perimeter. We're not getting in there with a frontal assault, Nicole said. Shegz studied the building. 40 stories. Server room on the 30th floor, according to Marcus's files. Rooftop access restricted. No easy entry points. Then we go through them, he said. Full assault. No holding back. What followed was the most intense urban combat of their careers. They fought their way through the building floor by floor. Ramirez's explosive charges created new paths when doors were barricaded. Nicole's sharpshooting took out snipers positioned at stairwell landings. Shegz coordinated their movements, adapting to changing situations with split-second decisions. They reached the 30th floor with 33 minutes remaining. The server room was ahead, but between them and it stood 6 heavily armed mercenaries in tactical gear. Last stand, one of the mercenaries called out, $20 million for you 3. We're not letting you pass. Last chance to walk away, Shegz called back. The mercenary laughed and opened fire. The battle was brutal. Close quarters. No room for error. Ramirez took a round to his already injured shoulder, but kept fighting. Nicole was grazed by shrapnel from a grenade. Shegz's tactical vest stopped 2 bullets that would have killed him. But they won. The mercenaries fell. Ramirez placed his thermite charge on the server, and they retreated, the white-hot destruction consuming Philadelphia's midnight sun node. 2 down, 10 to go, Chun reported. But I have good news. Walsh got through to a Delta Force team operating in Syria. They're hitting that server now. And we have confirmation. Frankfurt server is destroyed. Tokyo server is destroyed. We're down to 7 active servers. 28 minutes remaining. Can we make it? Nicole asked, breathing hard, bleeding from her forehead. The next server is in New York, Chun said. 100 miles. Even at high speed, you won't reach it in time. Shegz did the math. They couldn't physically reach enough servers before Midnight Sun executed. The mission was failing. Then Walsh's voice came through. We have another option. I've been in contact with Cyber Command. If we can upload a virus to one of the remaining servers, it might propagate through the network and corrupt the others. But someone needs to physically connect to a server and upload the virus manually. The closest server to us is DC, Chun said. FBI Headquarters. The Vault server. The place they'd just escaped from. The place where every federal agent was hunting them. The place that was now the most secure location on the East Coast. Then that's where we go, Shegz said. They drove back toward DC at maximum speed, sirens wailing behind them, helicopters tracking from above. 21 minutes remaining. The city was a war zone of law enforcement vehicles, all converging on their position. We're not making it to FBI headquarters, Nicole said, watching pursuit vehicles closing in. Yes, we are, Shegz said grimly, and jerked the wheel hard right. He drove straight toward a metro entrance. The vehicle crashed through barriers and descended into the subway system. Behind them, pursuit vehicles couldn't follow. They abandoned the car and ran through metro tunnels, using the underground network to reach FBI headquarters. 15 minutes remaining. They emerged from a maintenance tunnel 3 blocks from the building. Security had been tripled. Every entrance covered. Snipers on rooftops. Checkpoints at every approach. How do we get inside? Ramirez asked. The same way we got out, Nicole said. The emergency tunnel. They ran through the parking garage, found the tunnel entrance, and descended into darkness. 10 minutes remaining. They could hear teams moving through the building above them, searching, hunting. The vault was ahead. Shegz could see the massive door still hanging open from their earlier escape. Inside, the server farm hummed with digital life. The Midnight Sun interface showed its countdown. Targets remaining. May 12th execution. 8 minutes and 42 seconds. 8 minutes. Chen's voice in their ears. Uploading virus now. Connect the drive to any terminal in the server room. The virus will do the rest. Ramirez connected the drive. On screen, code began flowing. The virus was elegant, designed to spread through the Midnight Sun network and corrupt each server's execution protocols. But it needed time, for minutes, to propagate fully, which meant they had to hold this position for 4 minutes, while every agent in the building converged on their location. Contact. Ramirez shouted as the first security team entered the vault. Shegz and Nicole returned fire, using server racks as cover. More teams poured in. The room became a chaos of gunfire and shouting. They were outnumbered 20-3, and more were coming. The countdown continued. 5 minutes and 15 seconds. The virus propagation bar showed 60% complete. Ramirez went down, his leg shattered by a rifle round. He kept firing from the ground, refusing to stop. Nicole was hit in the vest again, the impact knocking her back. Sheg's weapon clicked empty. He switched to his sidearm. 3 minutes and 47 seconds. Propagation, 80%. We're not going to make it, Nicole said, her voice strained. Yes, we are, Shegz replied. Together. Always. She smiled despite the pain. Always. 2 minutes and 33 seconds. Propagation, 95%. Then, impossibly, the gunfire stopped. Shegz looked up to see agents lowering their weapons. More agents entering the vault, but not firing. And at the front, Deputy Director Chun and Director Walsh, both bloodied, but alive. Stand down. Walsh shouted to the security teams. These agents are not the enemy. Sir, they're fugitives, one agent started. They're heroes, Walsh interrupted. And I'm ordering you to stand down. Now, behind him, on every screen in the vault, Marcus's evidence was broadcasting. Video of architect collective meetings. Financial records. Confessions. Everything. The truth flooding through FBI systems, through government networks, through news channels worldwide. The collective was exposed. Completely. Undeniably. 1 minute and 15 seconds. Propagation, 99%. Chen moved to the terminal, watching the virus spread. Come on, come on. 45 seconds. Propagation, 100%. The virus completed its spread. On screen, the Midnight Sun interface flickered. Error messages began appearing. The countdown stuttered. 28 seconds, 31 seconds, 19 seconds. The timer was counting randomly now, the AI corrupted, its protocols breaking down. 7 seconds error. Protocol failure 15 seconds, system corruption detected 3 seconds. Then it stopped, froze at 3 seconds, and displayed a final message. Operation Midnight Sun terminated all targets. Safe system shut down complete. They'd done it. Against impossible odds, against a 30-year-old conspiracy, against every resource the Architect Collective could bring to bear. They'd won. Shegz collapsed against a server rack, breathing hard. Nicole sat beside him, both of them exhausted beyond measure. Ramirez was receiving medical attention, but he was smiling. Walsh and Chun stood together, watching their teams secure the vault. It's over, Nicole said quietly. The operation is over, Walsh corrected. But the fallout is just beginning. The Architect Collective had members in every intelligence agency, every government body, every military command. Cleaning this up will take years. But we have the evidence, Chen added. Every member identified. Every operation documented. Justice will be slow, but it will come. Over the following hours, the full scope of the victory became clear. All 12 Midnight Sun servers destroyed or corrupted. Admiral Hawthorne and 6 other architects in custody. The remaining 5 architects being hunted internationally. The conspiracy exposed so completely that no cover-up was possible. Shegz, Nicole, Ramirez, Walsh, and Chun were cleared of all charges. More than cleared, celebrated. The agents who'd saved 12 lives and exposed the greatest conspiracy in U.S. intelligence history. But sitting in a hospital room that evening, watching news coverage of architect arrests, Shegz couldn't shake a feeling of unease. "We got 13 of them," he said to Nicole, who was in the bed next to his, her shoulder bandaged from the Philadelphia firefight. 13 architects. But the collective is called that for a reason. How many more are out there that Marcus didn't discover? She was quiet for a moment, then said, "The final message on Hawthorne's computer, just before we captured him. Did you see it?" "No." "What did it say?" "Primary cell compromised. Secondary protocols activated. Phase 2 delayed, but not cancelled. Continue the work." It was signed C. "The Architect Collective," Shegz said. "We cut off 13 heads. But how many more does it have?" "I don't know," Nicole admitted. "But whatever happens, wherever they are, we'll find them. Together. Always." 3 months later, Shegz and Nicole received new orders. A specialized task force was being created, operating with complete autonomy, answerable only to a select oversight committee. Their mission: hunt down the remaining architect collective cells worldwide. No bureaucracy. No politics. Just results. Director Walsh was reinstated with full honors. Deputy Director Chun became the new Deputy Director of Counterintelligence. Ramirez, after recovering from his injuries, joined the task force as tactical commander. They gathered in a secure operations center for their first briefing. On the walls were 12 locations marked in red, spanning 6 continents. Suspected architect collective operations. Each one a potential threat. Each one a mission waiting to happen. "Welcome to Task Force Shadow Protocol," Walsh said. "Your mission is simple. Find them, stop them, and make sure what happened with Crimson Dawn and Midnight Sun never happens again." "Where do we start?" Ramirez asked. Chun pulled up a file on the main screen. 3 days ago, a weapon shipment was intercepted in Singapore. Military-grade hardware. Same signature as Covenant operations. The trail leads to a pharmaceutical company in Geneva. On paper, completely legitimate. But their financial patterns match the shell corporations the collective used. "Geneva," Nicole said. "That's our first target?" "Your first of many," Walsh confirmed. "The collective has been building this network for 30 years. Dismantling it will take time, resources, and people willing to operate in the shadows." Shegz studied the map, the 12 locations glowing red. 12 missions. 12 chances to stop another catastrophe before it started. 12 opportunities to save lives that would never know they'd been in danger. "When do we leave?" he asked. "Tomorrow morning," Chun said. "Private transport to Geneva. You'll be going in as corporate security consultants for a tech firm. Deep cover. Full operational autonomy. If something goes wrong, the U.S. government will deny any knowledge of your activities." "Plausible deniability," Ramirez said with a dark smile. "Just like the old days. Except this time," Walsh added, "you're not just stopping one attack. You're preventing the next 30 years of them." The collective was patient. They built their power slowly, carefully. Now they're exposed, wounded, but not destroyed. They'll try to rebuild. Your job is to make sure they never get the chance. Nicole looked at Shegz. 3 years of partnership. 33 operations together. Now, a lifetime of missions ahead. But she wouldn't want to face it with anyone else. "We're ready," she said. The briefing continued into the evening. More details. More intelligence. More targets. But through it all, one question lingered in the back of Sheg's mind. A question that would haunt him through every mission to come. How many more were out there? How deep did the conspiracy really go? As the team prepared to leave the operations center, Chun pulled Shegz aside. Her expression was troubled. "There's something you should see," she said quietly. "Something I didn't want to share in front of the others until I was certain." She led him to a secure terminal and pulled up an encrypted file. This came through an anonymous channel 2 hours ago, routed through 17 different servers, untraceable. But the encryption key matched one from Marcus's files, a key he said he'd only use if he discovered something that changed everything. "Marcus is dead," Shegz said. "I know. Which means he set this up before he died. A final insurance policy. A last message that would only be sent if specific conditions were met." She opened the file. It was a video. Marcus appeared on screen, sitting in what looked like his apartment. The timestamp showed it had been recorded 2 days before his death. He looked exhausted, haunted, but determined. "Shegz, Nicole, if you're watching this, it means I'm dead and you've managed to stop Midnight Sunday. Congratulations. You saved yourselves and exposed the collective. But I need you to understand something. What you've uncovered is only the surface." Marcus leaned forward, his voice dropping. "The Architect Collective isn't the top of the pyramid. It's the middle. There's another organization above them. One so deeply embedded in global power structures that even the collective doesn't know who all its members are. I found references to it in the deepest parts of the collective's archives. Codename, NEXUS." The video continued, Marcus explaining what little he'd discovered. NEXUS was older than the collective, possibly centuries old. An organization that manipulated governments, economies, and conflicts from the shadows. The collective had been one of their tools. And now that it was exposed, NEXUS would simply create new tools. "I tried to find more," Marcus said. "But every trail went cold. Every lead ended in dead ends or dead bodies. NEXUS protects itself with layers upon layers of deniability. But I know they exist. And I know they'll come for you eventually, because you've disrupted their operations." He paused, looking directly at the camera. "Watch for the signs. Unexplained coincidences. Operations that succeed too easily. Enemies that appear and disappear without explanation. NEXUS works through proxies. They'll never confront you directly. But they'll test you, push you, see if you're a threat to be eliminated or a tool to be recruited." The video ended with Marcus's final words. "Trust no one completely. Question everything. And remember, in the world of shadows, the deepest darkness often hides the greatest threats. Good luck, my friends. I hope you survive what's coming." The screen went dark. Shegz stared at it, processing. Everything they'd accomplished, stopping Crimson Dawn, exposing the collective, dismantling Midnight Sun. It had all been fighting the wrong enemy. Or rather, fighting one enemy while the true power remained hidden. "Do the others know?" he asked Jin. "Not yet. I wanted your opinion first. Do we tell them? Do we share this new threat? Or do we let them believe we've actually won?" Shegz was silent for a long moment. Then he said, "We tell them. All of them. Because if NEXUS is real, and if they're as powerful as Marcus believed, we're going to need everyone at their best. No secrets. No lies. Complete trust. Even knowing it might break them, knowing that everything we just fought for might have been for nothing. It wasn't for nothing. We saved 12 lives. We stopped a terrorist attack. We exposed corruption that had been festering for 3 decades. That matters. But you're right that the fight isn't over. Maybe it never will be." He looked at Chun. "But that's why we do this. Not for the final victory, but for all the small victories along the way. Every life saved. Every attack prevented. Every day we buy for people to live in peace." Chun nodded slowly. "I'll call another meeting. Tomorrow, before the Geneva mission. We'll tell them everything." "Good. Because whatever's out there, whatever NEXUS is planning, we face it together. As a team." He returned to Nicole, who was reviewing mission files. She looked up as he approached, immediately reading his expression. "What's wrong?" she asked. "Nothing. Everything." He sat beside her. "We need to talk. About what comes next." "I thought Geneva was what comes next." "It is. But there's more. Something Marcus discovered before he died." He pulled up the video on his tablet and showed it to her. Nicole watched in silence, her expression growing darker with each revelation. When it ended, she was quiet for a long time. "So we're chasing shadows of shadows now," she finally said. "The collective was just the middle tier. NEXUS is the real threat. Maybe. Or maybe Marcus was wrong. Maybe NEXUS doesn't exist, and he was seeing patterns that weren't there." "Do you believe that?" Shegz thought about everything they'd been through. The precision of the collective's operations. The resources they'd commanded. The protection they'd enjoyed for 3 decades. And he thought about how easily they'd been exposed once Marcus found the right evidence. Almost as if someone had allowed them to be exposed. As if a larger organization had decided the collective had outlived its usefulness. "No," he said finally. "I don't believe that. I think Marcus was right. I think there's something bigger out there. And I think stopping the collective just painted a target on our backs." Nicole reached over and took his hand. "Then we deal with it. Together. Like we always have." "Together," he agreed. "Always." The next morning, Task Force Shadow Protocol assembled for their final briefing before the Geneva mission. Walsh and Chun stood at the front of the operation center, both looking grave. "Before we discuss Geneva," Walsh began, "there's new intelligence you all need to see." They played Marcus's video. Watched as the reality of their situation shifted once again. The celebration of victory faded, replaced by the cold understanding that the war was far from over. When the video ended, Ramirez was the first to speak. "So we didn't win. We just moved up a level in their hierarchy." "We won the battle," Walsh corrected. "The collective is finished. But you're right that the war continues. If NEXUS exists, and I'm inclined to believe Marcus, then we're facing an enemy with resources, reach, and patience beyond anything we've encountered." "How do we fight an enemy we can't identify?" one of the other task force members asked. "The same way we've fought every enemy," Nicole answered. "One mission at a time. One target at a time. We find their operations, dismantle them, and work our way up their chain of command until we reach the top." "It could take years," Chen added. "Maybe decades. The collective took 30 years to build. NEXUS might be even older, even more entrenched." "Then we'd better get started," Shegz said. The briefing continued, but the mood had changed. This wasn't just a mission anymore. It was a commitment. A lifetime of work in the shadows, fighting enemies most people would never know existed, protecting a world that would never know it needed protecting. They departed for Geneva that afternoon. As the plane climbed through clouds over D.C., Shegz looked out the window at the city below. Somewhere down there, 40,000 people were living their lives, unaware of how close they'd come to death 3 months ago, unaware of the conspiracy that had almost destroyed them, unaware of the ongoing battle to keep them safe. That was how it should be, he thought. Let them live in ignorance. Let them be happy. That's what we fight for. Not glory, not recognition, but the simple gift of normal life for people who'll never know the cost. Nicole sat beside him, reviewing mission parameters on her tablet. But she sensed his thoughts and looked over. "Second thoughts?" she asked. "No. Just thinking about why we do this. For the people who can't fight for themselves. For the lives we'll never meet, in danger they'll never know about. For each other," she added quietly. He smiled. "Yeah, for each other too." The plane continued its climb, carrying them toward Geneva, toward their next mission, toward an uncertain future. But they faced it together, as they always had. Partners, friends, survivors. Below them, the world turned, oblivious to the shadows that protected it. And in those shadows, the real war had just begun. Epilogue. 6 months later, in a secure boardroom in an undisclosed location, 12 figures sat around a table. Their faces were hidden by shadows and digital privacy screens. Their voices were distorted by encryption. But their power was real, their reach global, their patience infinite. They were NEXUS. "The Architect Collective has been neutralized," one figure said. 13 members captured or killed. Their operations exposed. A 30-year investment lost. "An acceptable loss," another figure replied. The collective had become complacent, visible, They were always meant to be expendable if necessary. And the agents who exposed them? This task force shadow protocol. Being monitored. They've successfully completed 4 operations in 6 months. Geneva, Tokyo, Cairo, and Moscow. Each time dismantling collective remnants. Each time believing they're winning. Should we eliminate them? A pause. Then a third voice spoke, carrying weight of authority. No. Observe them. Test them. These agents have proven resourceful, resilient. They may prove useful when properly directed. And if they become too dangerous. The voice trailed off, leaving the implication clear. The Midnight Sun protocol failed, the first figure said. Do we have alternatives? Several. But patience serves us better than action. We've operated for 300 years. We can wait a few more. Let them chase shadows. Let them believe they're making progress. When the time is right, we'll decide their fate. And if they actually find us? Laughter around the table. Cold. Confident. Eternal. No one finds NEXUS, the authoritative voice said. We are the darkness behind the darkness. The power behind every throne. The invisible hand that shapes history itself. These agents are formidable. But they are still playing a game whose rules we wrote centuries ago. The meeting ended. The figures departed, returning to their roles in governments, corporations, intelligence agencies worldwide. Invisible, untouchable, patient. And in Geneva, Tokyo, Cairo, and Moscow, Task Force Shadow Protocol continued their missions, believing they were winning, not knowing they were being watched by eyes far older and more dangerous than anything they'd faced before. The real war had indeed just begun. They stopped Midnight Sun with 3 seconds to spare. 12 agents marked for death saved. The Architect Collective exposed. Admiral Hawthorne and 6 others in custody. The conspiracy that had operated for 30 years destroyed in 48 hours. But as Shegz and Nicole discovered in Marcus's final message, some wars never truly end. They only pause between battles. NEXUS, an organization so old, so deeply embedded in the fabric of global power, that even the Architect Collective didn't know all its members. An enemy that makes everything they faced so far look like a training exercise. Task Force Shadow Protocol has been created. Their mission: hunt down the remaining cells worldwide. Stop the next attack before it happens. And discover who NEXUS really is, before NEXUS discovers them. The hunt begins in Geneva, a pharmaceutical company, a weapons shipment, and a trail that leads deeper into the shadows than they ever imagined possible. Question 1. Who do you think is part of NEXUS? A sitting president? A tech billionaire? Someone we've already met? Drop your theories in the comments below. The craziest theory gets pinned. Question 2. Should Shegz and Nicole's partnership become something more in part 3? Or keep it purely professional? Comment romance or professional, and let's see what the Intel Chronicles community wants. Question 3. After Geneva, where should Task Force Shadow Protocol go next? Tokyo? Moscow? Dubai? North Korea? Comment your choice, and I might actually use it for part 4. Listen, part 3 is already in production. The Geneva Operation. International espionage. A conspiracy that spans 3 continents. And a betrayal that makes the fake Walsh twist look tame. But if you're not subscribed, you'll miss it. Hit that subscribe button right now. Smash the notification bell. Because when part 3 drops, the Intel Chronicles family gets notified first. We're building something special here. A community of thriller fans who appreciate real storytelling, not just mindless action. Because here's the truth. NEXUS has been watching them this whole time. Every move. Every decision. And in part 3, NEXUS makes their first direct move. Someone on the team doesn't make it out of Geneva alive. Who dies in Geneva? Ramirez? Chun? Or someone we haven't even suspected? Comment your prediction. And if you guess right, well, you'll just have to wait and see. Thank you for watching Shadow Protocol Part 2, Operation Midnight Sunday. You just spent 70 minutes with us, and that means everything. You're not just a viewer. You're part of the Intel Chronicles family now. Special shout out to everyone who commented on part 1, shared theories, and kept the conversation going. You are the reason I keep making these. This channel exists because you showed up. If somehow you missed part 1, it's linked in the description and the card above. Watch the entire Shadow Protocol saga from the beginning. And part 3? Coming soon. Subscribe so you don't miss the notification.
The Intel Chronicles. Every mission hides a secret. Every secret has a story.